taking care of people with dementia. Um, I first moved in with my grandparents about 3 years ago when I had to move out of my apartment. You know, I won't get too much into it, but some circumstances basically forced me to move into my grandparents' house. And right off the bat, my grandpa already had dementia. And, well, my grandpa had dementia, and I had to deal with that, basically when I was 20 onwards. I remember the very first night that I spent at my grandparents' house. I woke up in the middle of the night to my grandpa literally standing over me. Like, he had woken up in the middle of the night, went into my room, and just was watching me sleeping. And then I was just like, honestly, not even that freaked out. I was just like, whoa, what the hell? Grandpa, let's take you back to your room. So I took him back to his room, and he went to bed. And yeah. So that was like my very first night at my grandparents' house, I guess, taking care of them. And well, it was actually funny because my grandpa was the one with dementia, but my grandma turned out to be the more difficult one of the two. I'll really get more into that later, but I think that not having dementia kind of put her in the spot where she was lonelier and more self-aware, so it kind of just led to some like deeper frustrations and anger and stuff. Like, my grandpa was actually very peaceful. He never like caused any fights or he wanted to get aggressive with anybody. He had a very rare sort of peaceful type of dementia. Um, so yeah, he'd honestly just wander around the house. He never really went outside. Actually, I take that back. There was a few times that he did go outside and was just like walking around the street until the neighbors basically got him and took him back to our house. Yeah. That would be a recurring theme throughout those videos. Like, dementia people will just like walk outside and just just wander around, and they really put their own lives at risk. But so yeah, my grandpa did go and like do that a few times, but mostly he just lied down and just stayed inside. Uh, yeah. So, I guess honestly, my grandparents, I'd say like it did take some getting used to, but it wasn't that difficult to honestly take care of them. In fact, you know, it did get into an incident basically where like I had a hard time doing it by myself, and we did get a few caretakers to come out and assist me throughout the day and really do a lot of the work for me. We got them out there to like look after my grandma and grandpa, but I was still living here like full time pretty much. I did get a few jobs here and there, but mostly I was just with them. So earlier I mentioned that my grandma was like probably the more difficult one, even though she didn't have dementia. I say that because like she was low-key mean as fuck to my grandpa, and I guess I'm sort of snitching on her right now, but I don't really care. She deserves to be called out for it. Um, she'd always like, I remember she would like order him to pick up stuff off the floor, and I'd always be like, Grandma, please don't ask Grandpa to do that. He has dementia. It's not very nice. And then she would literally just go, okay, and then just keep doing it. And I was like, okay, I don't know what timing you're on, Grandma, but you're supposed to be like making cookies and shit. Like, she was a very bitter person. She never really. There was one time in my life I tried to show her Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and she literally cried and said to shut it off. More like screamed at me to shut it off. And yeah, I was just like, okay, well, I was just trying to vibe and just have a good time with you. But she was on like 6 different medications, dude. She was on her own form of dementia practically, because she would just be lying in bed all day. Yeah, I basically read the entire Bible with her. I'm not trying to say that like I'm super religious or anything, but I did try to like give her some things that she liked. She was very religious, very into Christianity, so I at least gave her that and tried to, like, read the Bible with her every so often. And we did almost get through the entire thing. We read the New Testament and got, like, halfway through the Old Testament, though it got pretty much to a grind. There are some parts of the Old Testament where it's like, you're basically just, like, reading names for pages and pages, and it's, like, kind of annoying, but yeah. We did do that. Well, I'll just cut to the chase. They did pass away, not that, I guess by now it is a while ago. I think a year and a half ago is when they passed away. I think actually coming up on 2 years ago. Yeah, so they did pass away, and then, I did live here by myself for a hot minute, I think for like a year pretty much. And then, I guess, like 6-ish months ago, my aunt, who also has dementia, was kicked out of her, like, the mental facility that she was in for being aggressive. So she really had nowhere else to go. So my mom took her and put her in with me. So now I no longer live alone. I live with my aunt, who has dementia. And I guess I don't really have anyone to come and help me with her. I actually do take care of her by myself. And yeah, I give her medication. I give her breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yeah, no, it's real. And honestly, when she first moved in here, that was the craziest time of my life. Because she would literally wander outside, and the police would regularly show up. The ambulances and the fire trucks, dude. There would be a time when, like, every so often, dude, like, I would go out of my room, and the front door would be wide open, and my heart would just sink to my chest, or to my feet, because I knew that, my aunt had gone and wandered outside. And sure enough, I would be screaming her name, just like walking up and down the street looking for her. And then one time I couldn't find her, and I went pretty far down the street and asked some, like, people who were doing yard work if they'd seen an older woman. And they're like, yes, we did actually. And she turned around and walked the other direction. So I walked down the other direction, and she had gone pretty far off. And it was a hot day. And she was all complaining that she was, like, going to pass out and stuff. Someone had pulled over and had called the police, so I got there right as the police was showing up. And yeah, it was so funny because you don't know what it's like, dude, to be in a situation like this. Or maybe if you do, honestly, if you do know what it's like to be in a situation like this, you have my deepest regards, because it's very uncomfortable. I went up there, and basically the woman at the car that had pulled over and called the police was, like, aggressive with me. She was like, stay back. And I was aggressive in return. I was like, I just didn't listen to her. I just went up and was like, this is my aunt. She wandered out of her house. She has dementia. And as soon as she knew, like, oh shit, then that's what's going on, she kind of backed off. But yeah, I just remember that, like, she was trying to control the situation, and she was trying to act like I was some stranger or something. It was just, like, awkward and weird. So the cops did show up, and then they called the paramedics. And every time this happens, it's so weird because I don't know why, I don't know if they get paid more or something, but they're always trying to convince her to go to the hospital. They're like, are you sure you don't want to go to the hospital? Are you sure you don't want to go to the hospital? Like, she just wandered outside, bro. She's fine. But I guess, like, during that one specific instance, she might have, because she was complaining that she was going to pass out and stuff. But she ended up being fine. Like, she didn't pass out. It was just a hot day. We got her into some shade, got her back inside. Everything was fine. And I ended up installing a door camera to the front door of the house. And yeah. So now whenever there's, like, motion at the front door, I get a notification on my phone, and I can see that she is going to leave. And for a while, dude, this actually came in clutch. Seriously came in clutch. Because she actually did try to leave many more times, about dozens more times. She would try to wander outside. And it would be, like, in multiple times in one day. Like, this doesn't really happen anymore. But she would be, like, there would be days where she would try to leave the house, like, 8 or 9 times in the span of a few hours. Like, you would be like, no, 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 correct her, and she would just try to instantly go back outside again. You put her back inside, she would go back, she would try to go back outside, and it would just be the struggle of doing this. And this is very common with dementia, by the way. Like, they are just going to ask the same questions over and over. They kind of forgot that they asked it in the first place. It doesn't matter what answer you give them, because they're just going to end up asking it again. And the same thing goes with behaviors. Like, you can't really stop them, dude. They're just going to keep doing the same thing over and over and over. It's crazy. It really is. I'll get into another story. So for a while, I think like kind of sort of after this, dude, she started hallucinating that the house was on fire. This is actually during the same time. I think this must have been a particularly stressful or like deep part of their dementia, because she would constantly say that the house is on fire or that something was gonna blow up, and like there was no fire at all. Good luck cooking something on the stove with her in the room. She would literally start screaming about a fire, like actually screaming at the top of her lungs that there's a fire. And she would get up and like try to shut off the stove and stuff. Mind you, she can barely walk and get up by herself, dude. She's basically physically handicapped as well. But yeah, that was happening for a while. So she would, and this actually is something I think common with dementia patients. Like, my grandpa used to hallucinate about fires in the house as well. I think it must be some sort of like survival mechanism getting triggered over and over. I'm not really sure, but yeah, there seems to be some sort of pattern there with like misperceived threats or something. So yeah, but then lately she has calmed down. Like, I've actually noticed not as many symptoms of dementia in her now as it was like maybe a few months ago. Maybe it's just her getting used to the house and the routine of everything and all that, but she is no longer like, I don't know, like screaming about fires that don't exist, or trying to go outside and wander around in the street and put her own life at risk and whatever. Yeah. So, I guess taking care of people with dementia can be like, obviously it's a mental drain. Like, you're going to be extremely stressed out all the time, because in a way it's like you try your best to go ahead and do the normal human things with them. Like, you try to talk to them, make jokes, but then in the back of your mind you're like, what's the point? They don't even understand what I'm saying. And they truly don't. They truly don't. Like, for instance, if I ever try to say goodnight to my auntie, she kind of freaks out and tells me to stay. Like, she kind of freaks out and tells me to stay with her, right? And she actually doesn't even know, like, she'll be like, it's time to get up. Like, if you tell her a good night, she'll try to get up out of bed, basically. So every time I put her to sleep and give her her meds and everything, I have to remind myself, don't tell her good night, because she's just gonna freak out. Same thing, you can't actually tell someone with dementia that they have dementia, and they don't even know it, dude. It's sad. They really don't. You just have to get used to making up the system in your brain of what works and what doesn't, and eventually you'll get accustomed to it. But yeah, it's really just a whole lot of trial and error until you figure it out, basically. And I'm not saying I have it figured out. Like, you know, I really have no formal training when it comes to this. I was just sort of thrust into this situation. Like, you know, I did not. I feel like I'm being like taken advantage of here. Like, you know, being forced to take care of dementia patients like twice in a row, like in my own house. But at the same time, this really isn't my house. This is my grandparents' house, and I'm only getting to stay here because of what I'm doing for them. So yeah, I am grateful for that. And also, we're working out something with the IHSS support, so I can actually get like compensation for what I'm doing. So I'm not too unhappy with it. It does stress me out sometimes. Like, I do get a little angry, unfortunately, which I try my best to manage. And you know, I really try my best to be like always kind and patient with my aunt, especially. And it makes me feel good inside when I am, like, especially like when she's like going through a mood and she's calling, because she likes to call me names a lot, right? It's so funny because someone with dementia can be like Well, actually, my grandpa really wasn't like this, but my aunt definitely is. She will be very nice and loving to you in one moment, and then like 5 seconds later, unprovoked, she'll call me a bastard. And then like I'm just like, excuse me, but I just let it go. Honestly, I don't care if she calls me names because I'm like, I don't know what's going on in that head. Really, I just don't. And yeah, so there's a lot of times I will take verbal barrages from her, kind of more or less unprovoked, and I'm okay with it. Because she has dementia. What can you do, really? Um, but yeah, it's also just crazy, the seeing, when I was taking care of my grandma and grandpa, there would be people in and out of the house constantly, dude. I had like zero privacy, like that, because of the people that my mom would hire to come and help me take care of them, or basically just do all the work in that instance. I remember there's this one guy named Greg who would be like, "What's up, bud?" Whenever I saw him, or like, "What's up, champ?" And then he would be like, "You're going to adult daycare?" Whenever I was off to college, and I was like, "Yeah, sure." Like, I had really no time for his bullshit, but I actually liked him. And it was actually hella sad because he did end up going to my grandma and grandpa's funeral, and they died very closely together, I'd say. And yeah, um, it was just like, you can love him or hate him, but he definitely put a contribution effort into the situation, and I don't know, it's just sad, dude. Losing someone is sad. Um, I think that, you know, honestly, I realize now that, like, when you're watching someone die, you get pushed to your limits, dude. Like, I think that you think yourself as calm-headed and cool until you actually get put to the test in those situations where you can actually see a little bit of your true nature. And I'm just gonna say it right now. When my grandma was dying, I walked out of that room. I wasn't there for her last breath. I walked out of that room. She died about 5 minutes later, and I was just gaming. I wasn't gaming, but I was just staring at my computer basically. My mom came in and said, "Oh, she's passed away." And same thing with my grandpa. I was there for him in at his last day in his hospital bed because I was there for him in his hospital bed, and I got asked, "Hey, do you want to go home?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I went home, and he died that night. Does that make me a shit person? You tell me. Honestly, I don't know. But yeah, a little deeply personal there, I know, but I just wanted to get a lot of this stuff off my chest because I think that it's been deeply bothering me for a while, and it still is because this is a currently evolving situation. I'm still living with my aunt, obviously, who has dementia, and I'm taking care of her every day, and probably will be for the next few years. So I don't think she's gonna die anytime soon, and I will have to end up living with those symptoms as they worsen and develop deeper, and I lose her more as a person, and that's gonna be especially painful because my grandpa, I don't know, I didn't really. He was a very quiet person, even in his healthy years. He kept to himself. He was a very gentle, kind person. My aunt, on the other hand, was very expressive, very, very emotional, had a very strong personality, and to some extent, you could still see that personality shine through. You can still see her kind of like become who she once was, I guess you could say. And watching that slowly disappear into nothing while she's still walking this earth is truly devastating, man. It's like it's like it fills you with some sort of pain that you can't particularly pin down, but it definitely is like some dull ache in the back of your mind. And well, it is a very real pain that a lot of people can relate to. Um, just watching someone's, I guess, sanity slip away, knowing that could happen to you. And you wouldn't even realize it, dude. I mean, she doesn't even know she has dementia. That's the crazy part. Another thing is, like, I don't know if I should talk about this, but she was literally getting scammed for a good while because some guy from across the sea, I won't say where, but like, saw that she was like mentally ill and handicapped and was going to be easily taken advantage of. So for a while, she was literally getting extorted, like, all of her money, basically. And then when she moved in, she would be like, "Can you get me in contact with my bank, my company?" And then that was actually code word for like the scam that she was involved with, like that she was getting targeted by. So it's just really fucked up, dude. The world is just fucked up in a way. Like, how could you target someone with dementia? Like, honestly, bro, it's I don't know. I'm moving on. Um, what is the biggest takeaway from this video? Honestly, I am not sure. Probably that, you know, dementia is a real thing. It's scary. It's like, it's insane, really. And if you're dealing with the same things I am, like, just know you're not alone, and other people are going through the similar struggles and pains. And also, like, if you honestly, if you think that it's changed you as a person, it probably has. If you think that it makes you unique as a person, it probably does. A lot of people can't relate to this sort of thing, and it's, again, a very unique struggle. It's a very unique pain. um but yeah, I just wanted to get this off my chest and share this with the world. But if you liked the video, I know it's a very somber topic, but just, you know, subscribe, support the channel. I'm going to be making more content as soon as I can. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like, everything. See you guys next time.